Hey guys, this is Moto. It's Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite, OTU Media. We're here on Let the People Decide. It's going to be a very special episode. In studio, we have with us OU Professor David Deming. He's been teaching at OU for 27 years, I understand,
yes, that's
David.
Right.
And in that time, David has seen the institution go from centered around education and become solely dedicated to political indoctrination of the left. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say it's solely. There's still people learning mathematics and learning foreign languages and things like that, but it's increasingly more and more devoted to political indoctrination. We're losing our way with our fundamental mission of education and research. And so for me, I sent out this open letter on higher education a few days ago, and for me the tipping point was when there was this meeting at OU where President Gallagher goes into the room with, I don't know, 100 or 200 of these radical left-wing activists, and this former dean, Professor, it's either Gerlat or Gerlo, I'm not sure how her name is spelled.
She is a piece of work.
She hands him a sign that says resign now, and then uses the F word and curses him. And that was not the scary part. The scary part for me is how the entire room leaps to its feet and spontaneously cheers. That's like the atmosphere of a lynch mob.
It is. It really is. It's like helter-skelter.
That is. And these people, they think they own that university. They think that it is their university, and it isn't.
Well, I've got to ask you, David, because we really appreciated you using Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite as a way to disseminate this open letter. It's right in our lane because, of course, if all of this was happening in a private institution, supply and demand economics, if people want to come and be politically indoctrinated, let them come and pay for it. But the problem is that this university is subsidized by the taxpayers.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right.
And
exactly right.
Quite a lot, as I understand it, it's about 11% of our state appropriated budget goes into higher education in the state.
The number is on the order of $800 million, I think.
God, man.
And they're asking for, I think, another, I don't know if the increase, what the exact number is, but it's more than 10% increase they want this year. And you know how much reform they're giving us for that extra money?
I would bet
zero.
None. Yes,
zero.
None. We
Zero.
have seen an apparent lack of political will in the state of Oklahoma for systematic, true reforms on all levels of state government.
There's apathy everywhere. It's endemic. We can't get anything done. People have got to get involved. You know, the symptom of the problem is I come home and I open up my mailbox, and there's like a little flyer there from some candidate running, that could be for a state office or a local office. And you know what they tell me on this flyer? That I'm a wonderful person, I have a nice family. Not a word on the issues or their ideology or how they're going to vote. You know, and to me, when somebody sends me something like that, I just want to tear it up and say, you're not getting my vote. But obviously it worked with people. You know, they wouldn't be doing that. We have got to insist that people pay attention to what's going on in the state and vote on the issues.
We are feverishly trying to wake up the citizenry in Oklahoma here at Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite and OTU Media. So let me get back to my original question.
Yeah.
What was it about Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite that spoke to you as the platform to bring this to?
Well, you know, I distributed this on social media to anybody who would take it. And you guys picked it up and ran with it. I also sent it out as an email attachment to 330 media outlets in the state of Oklahoma.
Oh.
And of those more than 300, one of them, the Edmond Sun, responded to me and said they're going to run it in today's print edition.
Today's?
Wednesday, yeah. Today
Wow.
is Wednesday, January 30th, is it not? And so,
we, as soon as you sent it to us that morning, we read the letter. We could tell you were 100% on target. You've actually got some notoriety in the conservative community in Oklahoma. You've spoken out against some of this advance from the liberal left before with gun rights and a few other things, I understand it. So we were very privileged to have that show up in our inbox, and I hope that we have been able to give it some exposure and airtime worthy at least of this
Well,
piece.
you know, we have you guys, we have a conservative group here, a conservative group there, and we're all working kind of in with the same goal, but we're not working together. And there has to be at some point some unification, because if we were unified, I think we would be more effective.
Well, we're going to try to achieve that here at Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite. You guys stick with us. This is Let the People Decide. I'm your host, Moto. We will see you on the other side of the break.
Hey everybody, Todd Tucker here, and everyone who knows me knows I love to read a great book, and right now I'm reading this incredible novel by local author Richard Engel. All you have to do is go to LastAmericanPresident.com and say big right now on this book. The Last American President is a story about political intrigue, romance, betrayal set against the backdrop of the dissolution of the United States of America. It's great reading, and when you go to LastAmericanPresident.com, LastAmericanPresident.com, use the promo code OTU, you're going to save money. And not only that, but half the price comes back to OTU. So half the proceeds from this book come back so you can watch great programming like you see on the OTU Media Network every day. LastAmericanPresident.com. I highly recommend this book. Read it today.
Because nobody can make it out here alone. You are not alone. I am not alone. We are not alone. We are in this together, and we will make this happen now. Enough is enough. No more racism. No more, no more, no more. And I'm not going to be as kind as the people that came before me and say, in a year from now, we're going to ask you for resignation. I'm going to fucking ask right now.
Okay, we're back. It's Let the People Decide. I'm Moto. We are in studio at the OTU Media Studios. Professor Deming, again, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us today. Let's get into the meat of this letter because the language right here at the start, higher education in Oklahoma has been taken over by a small group of radical left-wing political extremists. Expound upon that, because I think we see that all over the country and political spectrum right now.
I think a lot of people read that and they'll think you're exaggerating. You're engaging in hyperbole. And that's why I said right here in the same paragraph, go online and look at that video of the way they're treating this guy Galloway.
You're talking about this January 22nd meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And tell me if that's not the case. I had held back on this letter. I composed this letter last December, and I held back and thought, should I send this out? Is it too extreme? And then I saw that video, and I thought, no, this is exactly on point. And if you don't think that's the case, also let's do a little rewind here. Let's go back to February 2nd, 2017. That'll be almost 2 years ago. President Trump's been in office, I think about at that point, like a month, maybe only 2 weeks. I don't know when the inauguration was. Okay, but he announced his travel ban. And so there's a protest march on campus against the Trump travel ban. Okay, there's like 100, 200 people, fine, okay? I believe in the First Amendment. They should go out. They have a right to protest publicly. But there's two guys who are standing there by the side of the march holding up signs that say basically, I support Trump, or I support the travel ban, or make America great again. Two guys versus 200. And you know what happens to them? They're physically assaulted. They're called racist. Racist language is used.
Oh,
obscene language is used against them.
Then almost for certainly these 200 other people were expelled or banned from campus, right?
No, nothing was done. Nothing whatsoever was done against them, as far as I know.
So actual physical assault, and nothing happens to these 200 students
That's
that
right.
are standing there engaging.
The
in
only
it.
place it was reported was in the campus newspaper, and they took a lot of heat for even reporting it. People on the left said, you shouldn't even have reported this. And the Oklahoman and the Tulsa World and all the television stations in Oklahoma City and Tulsa ignored it. Ignored it. And you don't think the news you get is biased or selective? It is.
Absolutely.
It's filtered, absolutely.
That's the term that I like to give to people, because it's hard for people to digest the fact that they might be being fed an entire counter narrative or something completely like the great deceiver. You know, like if our state has become our god, if government has become our god and it's constantly lying to us, it's hard for people. But the filter word, whenever I talk about corporate filtering of information, people understand that. They understand that corporations and companies don't want to rock the boat too much.
But getting back to my point of the campus has been taken over, okay? Now, you go there and you would think the ratio of the people who hate Trump to those who are supporting him is 100 to 1, okay? But that's on campus. In Oklahoma, Trump got 65% of the vote. About 2/3 of the people in the state
Carried
are
every
either
single
very
county.
or moderately conservative.
Not a blue county here in 2016.
And they are not welcome on the OU campus. You can be you wear that hat, or you have right there, the MAGA hat, Make America Great Again. You start walking around campus, you could be assaulted. You could have that hat knocked off your head.
Oh, they might try, sir.
There you go. So,
Actually, I experienced this. Last Saturday, I went to an event that Congresswoman Kendra Horn had over at the Cole Community Center.
Yes.
And I wore my hat because it's important for me to show support for my president, especially when he's trying to secure our borders and restore our economy and put all of us back to work. And this perfectly civil-looking elderly lady was walking in, and she saw my hat, and she immediately launched into obscene language and called me a loser. I mean, I would have thought this woman was getting ready for a church bake sale. Sir.
Isn't it fascinating how the left is obsessed with profanity? If you ever go on any of their websites, every other word is the F word, and and I'm not completely opposed to profanity. My grandfather was a blacksmith. My father tells me that he could curse so hard he'd make the air turn blue. Okay, but when you're using it, that much, maybe it's because you don't have any ideas.
I feel like it is emotional crack for the left.
Yeah.
I feel like the left is 100% driven by this ambiguous emotionalism, this sensationalism, and so when they feel their high starting to come down, or they feel like the room isn't responding with enough of that emotionalism, this former dean of international studies, who's really probably just upset because Jim has taken away their castles and high-paid administrative positions. But in any case, going back to these two guys versus this mob of 200, we on the right and conservatives, clear-thinking people, we know that it's not the fault of that entire 200-person crowd that a few of these people are yelling racial slurs at these two guys. So we are not about to go and we are not about to even go and punish or ostracize. We can criticize for sure racist language coming from anyone, but we are not going to, for instance, seek some type of punitive reparation for language, for speech. And yet, this dean, which scares me, this person that's educating young adults, thinks that somehow gladly can mitigate all of the behavior of these students in their own private dorm rooms, on their own private devices, to the point that someone says something racist on campus and he needs to resign.
Well, you know what?
That's lunacy.
You know what? We've had now, we have 26,000 students at OU enrolled and we've had now one racist incident or two over 4 years, each time involving two students. What does that prove? If you look at that rationally, when you have two people doing something out of 26,000, and that proves the opposite. It proves that it's remarkably free of racism.
Well, and I really hate how they immediately appropriate this behavior to racism. These were sorority girls that are acting stupid together and showing off for their friends.
This is not like a malicious
Basic
racism.
human
This is
nature.
not the Ku Klux Klan burning crosses and carrying ropes to lynch people. This is not Jim Crow segregation. And I'm 64 years old, and I remember, right, watching. I lived through the civil rights era, and I remember, the fire hoses coming out and what was the name of the guy, Sheriff Bull Connor, who went against these people who were marching with Martin Luther King. And when I was 6 or 8 years old, I was laying on the living room floor looking through the newspaper, and I would read ads that said, classified ads for jobs that said, colored need not apply. I remember that's segregation, okay? That's real racism. The truth is we haven't had institutional racism at the University of Oklahoma since about 1950 when it was integrated.
You know why I think all these kids identify everything as racism or every white person as a Nazi? Because they've never seen real racism or a real Nazi.
That's right, And the term has become so degraded now that it basically means anything they don't like.
Yeah.
If you support Trump, you're a racist. If you're, according to the doctrine, in fact, of white privilege, just the very fact that you're white makes you a racist.
You know what? That's a good spot for us to take a break, because when we come back, we're going to get into some of the rest of this letter that talks about not only those types of studies, but also I think grievance studies is what you refer to it. Now, is that what it's formally referred to, or is that an ism?
No, that's an ism.
That's a Deming-ism. Okay.
Well, I didn't come up. It doesn't originate with me.
Okay. All right.
But it's a good term.
Okay.
So
yeah, I like it. All right, you guys, stick with us. This is Let the People Decide. I'm Moto with Professor Deming. We'll see you on the other side.
Because nobody can make it out here alone. You are not alone. I am not alone. We are not alone. We are in this together, and we will make this happen now. Enough is enough. No more racism. No more, no more, no more. And I'm not going to be as kind as the people that came before me and say, in a year from now, we're going to ask for your resignation. I'm going to fucking ask for it now.
All right, guys, we're back. This is Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite. I'm Moto. Let the People Decide, OTU Media. If you guys like what we're doing, we are creating quite the buzz. Please help support the mission and the broadcast here. You can go to www.patreon.com/OTU Media. You can sign up to contribute as little as $1 a month. And there are tiers and benefits that you get, such as behind-the-scenes content. You get to see some of our stories and some of our breaking news as it goes through the OTU media process, because it's getting to the point where we're on top of this really before and in large, after even large news outlets don't want to touch stories like this. So is it these darling gender equalities and grievance studies of the left that makes our media, even here in Oklahoma, afraid to publish this type of material?
Well, I don't know what makes them afraid, but keep in mind that the people who are staffing now all of these news organizations are coming out of the journalism schools. In the journalism schools, they're taught that their job is not to report the news. There's no such thing anymore as objectivity or factual reporting. Their job is to promote radical left-wing politics. This is their cause in life. And if you look at them and talk to them and question this, they look at you like you're insane. And you understand, they have driven out anybody who disagrees with them. And so they sit around and they talk to each other, and everybody says the same thing. So they start thinking, this is the way things must be.
And I found something else very interesting. I think this might have been on your interview with Pat Campbell on his radio show.
Yes.
You talked about how OU is actively not hiring graduates from within their own programs. They're bringing in even more radical and more left professors from East and West Coast schools to be teachers and professors.
I would. Well, that's right. I think that most of the people who work at OU, the faculty, are not Oklahomans. And traditionally, the view is in academia, I think this is correct, that you do not hire young graduates because then you get basically incest of ideas, right? You want to bring in people from outside with different ideas, okay? But we have a very radical faculty. We have, even before President Gallagher took office, and they hate him, you understand? They wrote a letter spearheaded by this former dean, Grillo, and that questioned basically his qualifications to be president, and more than 500 faculty signed it. Over 500, that's over 50%. And if you figure if over 50% signed it, there must be another 30 or 40% who agree with it, but are afraid to put their names on it.
And then, look, I'm not sure this woman is qualified to walk free in public. The idea that that Mr. Gallagher could control the behavior of students behind closed doors on their own private device. What does she want? No phones on campus? Let's just ban phones, and then there won't be Snapchat, and no one will be able to send out racist videos?
These people are perpetually angry. They're angry. They're hateful.
Has she lost her mind?
Well, you know what? I deal in the realm of ideas. And so I criticize, when people make a statement, I criticize that. I don't criticize personalities.
I just cannot imagine myself making a statement in public so ridiculous that because these two students made a video on their social media that that he needs to resign because racism. What kind of disjunctive?
You know what you're talking about here ultimately is ignorance
and shamelessness.
It's ignorance, because if you don't know anything about human history, if you don't know anything about different cultures and different civilizations in your own history, American history, and you only talk to people who are as ignorant as you are, and you keep bouncing the same stuff, propaganda back and forth, after a while it becomes to you like for these people, their left-wing ideology is like a religion. It is something that it is above everything else. And this is the nature of political correctness. When your political views, because everyone believes their own political views are correct. That's always been the case. Okay, but political correctness is something, that's not political correctness. Political correctness is when this becomes for you something that's more important than life and death, something that's like a religion that you will die for, that supersedes everything.
Well, so, and on the religion part too, you know, I feel like there is this schizophrenia that happens on the left with regards to religions. You know, you look at the Judeo-Christian subsects of religion, and they're hated by the left, hated by liberals.
Yes.
But then you look at the left's campaign to normalize Islam and make all of us accept this this offshoot of the Judeo-Christian religions. And it's their darling child. In fact, I'm not understand we the Oklahoma taxpayer are even paying for some of this Islam at OU.
Let's step back a year or two. You remember there's a Ten Commandments monument on the grounds of the state capitol.
I forgot about that.
And that has to be removed. That has to absolutely be hauled away. And one guy even ran into it with a truck. It made them so angry, because you cannot mix government and religion. Yet you go down to the OU campus, you know what they have in the Bazell Library? They have an Islamic prayer room stocked with copies of the Quran. Now, how is that legal? How is that even possible? And you go to them and say, oh, no, Professor Deming, you don't understand. This is a reflection room. It's not an Islamic prayer room. Well, then tell me, why is it stocked with copies of the Quran? Do you have Bibles in there? I bet you don't. They have pamphlets on Islam. Okay? And
all of this is subsidized by Oklahoma taxpayers.
That's right.
And that is completely out of step with the normal, everyday Oklahoman.
And that's not the only thing. And they're putting on drag shows at our expense.
See, now I saw this. What's the group that's doing this again? It's the Gender
We
and
have
Equality
a
Center?
Gender Plus Equality Center that boasts about putting on an annual Crimson and Queens drag show.
Crimson and Queens.
And you know what? If
You would think that we're making this stuff up. You would think that we're a
Yes,
bunch of
yeah,
crazy
you would
right
think,
wingers
no, you can't
making
make
this up.
You can't make this up. You can't make this stuff up. And they boast about it publicly. You can go on the website and look about it and see the pictures of all the drag queens up there. And you know what? If you want to have a drag show, I have nothing wrong with that. Rent a room somewhere and have your drag show. If men want to dress up as women, more power to them. Go for it. You know, it's a free country. At least it used to be at one time. Okay, but why is this a legitimate function of higher education in Oklahoma? And then you tell me, and then President Burns Hargis at OSU is quoted as saying, it's a myth that higher education wastes money. And you're putting on drag shows? Really? Really? Like,
Well,
this
no,
is
and-
absolutely essential? You have to have this?
And funding for higher education has increased, and tuition has increased. So the cost is going up for the taxpayer and the students. How much quality academics or education has been added to OU or the I noticed there was a term I found very interesting. It was legislative appropriations. Now, am I to take that to mean that the state has a say over how many people the university can staff at one time, or some sort?
Well, as I understand the process, the legislature appropriates a bulk sum that's somewhere in the neighborhood of $800 million for higher education. And then the state regions for higher education take that and they divvy it up. And they say, OU gets this much, and OSU gets that much. And the other universities get so much. Okay? And in 2000, I think it was 17, just last year. Okay? Here's the example I give. This is a marvelous example. Okay? Evidently, Governor Fallon had let me read here, a Council for Workforce and Economic Development that says Oklahoma has a shortage of registered nurses. And so we educate registered nurses at OU. We have a school of nursing, and that's a good thing.
School.
Right? We need nurses to take care of sick people.
So
right?
so OU took their
So what
portion of that money and put it towards the nursing school, right?
No, they didn't. In fact, they went out and hired 3 new faculty for the Native American Studies program, another one of these grievance studies. And please understand, I don't think it's Native Americans. They're great people, right? Important and valued constituency in Oklahoma, right? And many of them very conservative too. But what they do in the Native American Studies Department, or the Women's Studies Department, or the African American Studies Department has nothing to do with the people that these departments take their name from. It's all about promoting radical left-wing ideology.
So it's just it's a university level multiculturalism program.
Well, yeah, you could call it that.
Okay.
And-
As far as how many people are we talking about here, though? Because you could have one person that sends out these emails, and I guess.
Well, for example, Women's Studies has what they call 4 core faculty and 93 affiliated faculty. 93. And out of something like the 4,000 degrees that OU awards in a year, Women's Studies awards like 4 degrees or 6 degrees. Okay? These things need to be wiped out. And what I say in my letter is these are like cancer seeds. And the reason they're like cancer seeds is the faculty in them are radicals. These are people who are not devoted to free inquiry and academic freedom and free speech and intellectual freedom. These are people, they're totalitarians. These are people who want to superimpose their ideas and exclude everyone else by any means possible.
Now, is it possible that we're just working with very rudimentary humans that have found their niche and understand it and are only propagating some self-worth that they might have to society?
No.
No, these are radical.
These are radical
Political activists.
Let me give you an example of a guy. Here's a guy, Professor Carlos Hill, and I've never met Professor Hill. I'm sure he's a fine person. I have nothing at all to say negative about him personally, okay? But he is head of the African American Studies Department, okay? And he has come out with a editorial in the campus newspaper that has called for what he wants the University of Oklahoma to impose what he calls a zero tolerance policy on the dissemination, I'm reading right from his own words, the dissemination of racist hate speech by any OU student, faculty, or staff. Full stop. Okay. So he wants a ban on all hate speech. Okay. First of all, that's 100% illegal.
Well, yeah.
Right? The Supreme Court.
I might hate what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it.
Well, no, let's even take a step back. So it begs the question, does it not? What is hate speech? Well, it's impossible to come up with any objective or legal definition of what constitutes hate speech. In practice, it's anything he doesn't like. And so rather than have to beat you in debate, he just wants to use the power of the government to shut you up.
But yeah, I was fixing to say, there's a little fiefdom tucked into this letter that I found interesting. I see here that we got the OU Faculty Senate. The OU Faculty Senate could, of course, decide what hate speech was, couldn't they?
Yes. In fact, the OU Faculty Senate is such a marvelous body. I compare them. They have collectively the intelligence of a flock of turkeys. And after the SAE incident, you remember in 2015, they declared that if you encounter hate speech on campus, you should report it to the
Oh, these were the guys that were just frog marched right off campus.
Yes.
Okay, hey,
Yes.
I do want to talk about that. So we're going to take a break, guys. We will be right back. This is Professor Deming. This is Let the People Decide. Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite. Stick with us.
Introducing all new, safe, natural relief. A cannabinoid-rich, clarity and focus formula with 17 essential supplements. When it matters most, you've got a job to do. Anxiety isn't an option. Programmed to keep you moving. A product exclusively manufactured for Active Duty RX by Cantech Labs.
Hey everybody, Todd Tucker here, and everyone who knows me knows I love to read a great book, and right now I'm reading this incredible novel by local author Richard Engel. All you have to do is go to lastamericanpresident.com and say big right now in this book. The Last American President is a story about political intrigue, romance, betrayal set against the backdrop of the dissolution of the United States of America. It's great reading, and when you go to lastamericanpresident.com, use the promo code OTU, you're going to save money. And not only that, but half the price comes back to OTU. So half the proceeds from this book come back so you can watch great programming like you see on the OTU Media Network every day. LastAmericanPresident.com. I highly recommend this book. Read it today.
All right, hey guys, it's Moto. We're back on Let the People Decide in studio with Professor David Deming. Professor Deming last week did us a great favor and selected us as one of the media outlets to try to disseminate this letter to talk some sense into the state of Oklahoma, especially in regards to our academic institutions. When we left for break, we were talking about an incident that happened last February with some frat guys, some fraternity guys that did kind of the same thing as these girls. They were using racial slurs. It was in public, though, if I remember correctly.
It was on a bus.
Right.
And there's no doubt that what they were doing was despicable.
Heinous, of
yes,
course.
It was offensive. And that was in 2015. They're in the SAE fraternity. And so, but what happens to them, what they did is one legal scholar, what they did was offensive, but what the university did in retaliation was illegal. They expelled them without giving them a hearing, without any due process of law. Now, everyone gets due process of law. I don't care if you're a murderer, a child abuser, or a rapist. You have a right to defend yourself.
And these are paying students. They're
That's right.
paying to attend this institution.
Yes.
Which I also find a little bit ridiculous. Even with these two girls, like we're in the world of 1984 here, where they're picking out videos of them from social media. So where does it stop? According to, I guess, Professor Hill or the OU Faculty Senate, we've seen the extent that they are already willing to go to punish this hate speech, and there's not even any definitive body to tell them that it is for sure hate speech.
If you want to see where it's going, just look around the world. Look at Venezuela. Look at North Korea. That's the end state. They are going. If they've got, like, the wolf is not at the door now. The wolf has got his snout in the door, and the door is cracked open. And if you let them go where they want to take this, they will turn the University of Oklahoma campus into the academic equivalent of Venezuela. It'll be total destruction.
An interesting comparison there, and we can talk more about Carlos on this too. Is I'm willing to guess that Professor Hill is probably not a Donald Trump supporter. I'm assuming that Donald Trump is probably not his president.
Well, it begs the question, doesn't it? If Professor Hill wants all racist hate speech put to a stop, if he wants you banned and excluded and punished from the university campus, a place where now for 800 years in Western civilization, since the founding of the great medieval universities, we've had this tradition, right, of academic freedom and free inquiry and debating and intellectualism. Okay. The question is, what does he consider to be racist hate speech? Well, good. Thankfully, he told us. November 22nd, 2016, his column expressing his disappointment in the people of Oklahoma. Okay. What does he consider? And he says here, the 65% of the people in Oklahoma who voted for Donald Trump, right? These are the taxpayers, keep in mind, that support the University of Oklahoma.
See about to put us in a basket?
And these are the owners of the university. He says, they have endorsed his bigotry, and as such are complicit in the intolerant climate that has ensued. And so, in other words, you care nothing about civility and decency. Trump's victory dismantles the last vestiges of political decorum, represents the height of white privilege and hypocrisy. And so, you wear that hat you're wearing right now, that's racist hate speech. You're going to be banned and excluded. What a thing to have the power of the government ban the opposition political party.
Well, and even past that, what drives me crazy is, Langston University here in Oklahoma also, it's our black college, okay?
Yes.
And the voting results for 2016, Hillary Clinton got 95% of the vote. Gary Johnson actually got more than President Trump there with
Yeah.
like a 3%, which means that 1.5% of the people that voted around that university voted for a president that has resulted in the lowest unemployment rate in minority communities in the history of our country. So what are they not teaching at our universities for these students to be so vehemently opposed to Hillary Clinton, or so in support of Hillary Clinton, a Goldwater girl, minimum sentencing, tons of black men in prison because of President Bill Clinton, and not support the president who ultimately landed more jobs, more retirement money back in their communities.
The Democrats and the political left are really into this identity politics, where your whole worth is based on not what your ideas are, okay, but you're supposed to determine how you vote based on your sex and on your race. And whatever happened to the ideal of a colorblind society we used to have back in the 1960s, that we thought this is what Martin Luther King wants and this is where we're going? And you know what? In fact, that's the only way. That's the only way it can work. Because once you start saying, I want this for this group and this for that group, all the groups are each other's throats, right? Trying to cut up the pie and divide it up. Okay? But they're really into this identity politics. And what conservatives have to understand is conservatives look at, and I don't use the term liberal anymore, you may have noticed. I talk leftist.
Yes.
These people are not liberals, right? Because liberals believe in things like free speech and democracy. They don't believe in that. These are totalitarians. Okay? The modern Democratic Party and these leftist ideologues have taken over OU. These are totalitarians. These are very dangerous people, very radical people. Okay? But I lost my train of thought.
I secretly think that these people have just never felt any sense of self-determination. They've been a part of and within a system their entire lives. And the white privilege thing is a perfect example, because if you are born and indoctrinated into from the moment that you can think, that you are influenced and affected and controlled by this disadvantage or this
here's the point I wanted to make, is that conservatives think leftists are people with bad ideas. But that's not the way leftists think of conservatives. They don't think about ideas. They just think that we're bad people, period. That's why you get all this hate and this profanity and the cursing, the way she stands up. And they hate President Gallagher at OU. They hated him before he took office. They hate him because he's white, because he's male, because they perceive, and he strikes me as being kind of an apolitical guy, but they perceive him, to the extent that he's political, as being conservative, as being perhaps a person who votes for Republicans, and he has a history of working for oil companies, and they hate him for that. It's an irrational hatred, and I've had like 25 years of it now.
So, speaking to that 25 years and Gallagher, are you? I noticed in your letter you said you are impressed with some of the progress that he's made trying to improve the budget, but that he is only now just nibbling around the edges. I believe
He has done 3% of what he should do. He's got to get rid of these grievance studies departments, the women's studies, the African American. These are the cancer seeds. You know, we have a Center for Social Justice at OU that publicly boasts right on this webpage that what it does is it trains students in political activism. You want to see? You wonder why you have this lynch mob atmosphere in this room. We watched that video where they're cheering, the denunciation of the president of the university. They're trained to do that. The university trains them to do that.
So this is literally
you're subsidizing it.
This is a Marxism training camp paid
That's
for by the Oklahoma
That's
taxpayers.
exactly what it is.
And I feel like the problem does start in public education here also, because I feel like so many young people are going to these universities and they've been taught what to think, what to think, what to think, what to think. No one has ever taught them how to think. So when they come up against a former dean of international business, that's been a professor and has these paper credentials, and she says Gallagher should resign because these two students in the privacy of their own room or on their social media, that is completely unhinged to me. And the fact that that there wasn't a single person sitting in that room that just yelled out, that's nonsense. It's scary to me.
It is. It's as I said, they group together there. They're funded by the state, and they're funded very generously too. The last number I saw on Professor Grillo's salary when she was a dean was like $264,000.
My goodness. I saw here.
It's breathtaking.
You mentioned that there are more than 100 faculty and administrators at OU who make more than $200,000 each year.
Let's take a step back and set this up. Okay, the median family income in Oklahoma is, according to the best numbers I'm getting, is about $50,000. The governor of Oklahoma, who runs the whole state, makes a salary of $147,000. A U.S. congressman or senator makes a salary of $174,000. A dean at OU makes about $300,000 for running an academic college.
Man.
As I said there, it blew my mind like about 5 years ago when I saw their salaries had risen to $200,000 for a dean. And now, in the space of a very few years, it's $300,000. People, you're being gouged.
And with that
you're being cheated. This is not necessary. You're being taken advantage of.
With that kind of money, too, all being focused in that small group of elites, that makes it very easy for them to affect the political process in the state to favor their agendas and ideas.
Yes.
We've, at Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite, we've discussed this before, that 38% of our state appropriated budget, 38%, goes to public education. And we have 500 plus school districts in a state with 77 counties. And some of these public school superintendents are making that type of money. If I remember correctly, the superintendent for Tulsa Public Schools is making northward of $350,000 a year.
Why does this happen? Why can't we get a handle on this? People have got to pay attention and wake up.
We had some legislators that proposed bills to cap superintendent salaries at the governor's salary. Why do these people need to make more than the governor? Oh, by the way, that superintendent in Tulsa has 10 people on their staff that also make six-figure salaries. So we're seeing a concentration of money and people into the public education system, stretched into academia.
It's the same thing you see in a country like Venezuela. You have a few people at the top are looting everyone else.
50% of our state budget is going to public or higher education.
Yeah, and so someone's got to bring under control. You know, with OU we have a department of 10 people in charge of regulating Halloween costumes.
God bless.
We have.
I mean, I can't even think of 10 Halloween costumes you would need to regulate.
We have a so-called Office of Community. It has a staff of 10 people. And what do those 10 people do? Well, they indoctrinate students. That's the official indoctrinate students in left-wing, these bizarre left-wing political ideologies.
And this is the Office of University Community?
That's it. Like white privilege, to teach all the white students that you're racist, there's something you can do about it, you better feel guilty and ashamed. And cultural appropriation. Be very sure when you're choosing your Halloween costume, you don't engage in cultural appropriation.
Now, I took formal logic during my short stint in college. It was not the place for me. A lot because of the professors and the environment there, because I was already a Marine Corps veteran. I had already been taught civics. I understood leadership and sovereign rights as a person. But in my short stint there, I did take some logic classes.
Yes.
And all of these grievance studies or gender equality, community center ideas like Halloween costumes, all of these seem like very obvious formal fallacies to me. Like, these are all very easy to.
But you don't understand, because you see, logic, it's a white male invention from the ancient Greeks, Aristotle.
see.
These are sexist, oppressive societies, and they have to be expelled from the university.
So we have to abandon all logic
Well, that's right.
and embrace total sensationalistic emotionalism.
And eventually, where they're going is they won't even allow the teaching of arithmetic.
All right, we're going to be back with more of the emotionalism of Professional David Deming after this. You guys stick with us. All right, let's see.
Because nobody can make it out here alone. You are not alone. I am not alone. We are not alone. We are in this together, and we will make this happen now. Enough is enough. No more racism. No more, no more, no more. And I'm not going to be as kind as the people that came before me and say, in a year from now, we're going to ask you for resignation. I'm going to fucking ask right now.
OTAP here from E Pluribus OTAP. Out of many, me. I am America, and you can be too. Here to let you know that I'll soon be making my gloriously patriotic return thanks to OTU Media. News and views from a conservative, pro-American point of view. America first, last, and everything in between.
Introducing all new, safe, natural relief. A cannabinoid-rich, clarity and focus formula with 17 essential supplements. When it matters most, you've got a job to do. Anxiety isn't an option. Programmed to keep you moving. A product exclusively manufactured for Active Duty RX by Cantech Labs.
It's Moto. We're back on Let the People Decide. You guys might have noticed last week we dropped a huge story on our website, www.oklahomataxpayersunite.com. It was a letter from Professor David Deming of the University of Oklahoma. He's been teaching there 27 years and seen this downward spiral towards leftist, not liberalism, but ideological indoctrination, political activism, and the like. And I thought another great part of the letter was you referenced a state regent who had recently warned that higher education is rushing headlong toward an anti-intellectual abyss, like that abandonment of logic we were talking about.
The abyss is here right now, because as I speak, the University of Oklahoma is considering a rule that would outlaw and ban all hate speech on campus. And as we were discussing earlier, hate speech, what does that mean? That means anything that's politically incorrect, anything you don't like. Your hat, your red hat, that's hate speech. And it's 100% illegal. And it's pathetic that I am there are 1,000 faculty. I'm the only person who's speaking up against this.
It's by design, though, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You slipped through the cracks.
That's a whole nother story. It's how I've survived, And I've been to federal court twice, so I wouldn't have survived. And I'm grateful to all the people who helped me, and they knew who they are, okay? But is that not amazing that intellectual community of scholars that not one of them can stand up for academic freedom, for free speech, for intellectual and political freedom, that not one regent stands up. Where are the regents, for God's sake? They're asleep at the switch. Wake up, people. You're supposed to govern the university. Where's the governor?
Now
Where's the legislators?
We do have a new governor, and you know, a lot of people that bring problems to the table get criticized if they don't bring solutions. But you've got some solutions here.
I do.
At the end of
do.
The article, one of which the governor is capable of, if I understand correctly.
I think so. And
So
I'll tell you, in a way, the battle has already been won because we have the legal power to solve this. Because according to the Constitution of Oklahoma, 100% of the legal authority for governing that institution, for governing higher education, resides with the regents, and how that's divided up between the university and state regents, I don't know. Okay? But 0% resides with the faculty, with all of these left-wing radicals. And I think the solution is the governor has to call the regents together, but they have to have the willpower to do this. And what I would do is I would do it in the summer, when all of this radical students and all of these radical faculty are mostly gone home, and I would wipe out all of this stuff in one sweep. Just wipe out all the grievance studies, wipe out the Center for Social Justice, wipe out all of the waste, get rid of this Office of Community that has 10 people to regulate Halloween costumes and is not needed. Just wipe it all out in one declaration. And then when they get back on campus in the fall, let them protest in March. And if they obstruct the buildings, arrest them and immediately expel them.
Well, we've got a little bit different theory about how to do things towards that end at Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite. We feel like the taxpayer dollars flooding into all of this is the problem, and if we can just cut it off at the tap, then like a plant that's preparing itself for the freeze.
You are 100% correct. You have got to starve the beast into submission. Consider this, that in that state appropriations for higher education are actually down $100 million from their peak, which I think was about 10 or 12 years ago. I don't have the numbers in front of me, I understand, but that's approximately correct. That's like, you would think, hitting them up the side of the head with a 2x4. No, it hasn't even gotten their attention. They're still going the wrong way. Well, you know, and maybe with President Gallagher, finally, we're starting to inch, you know, trying to, you know, if not correct the course, at least we're not going the wrong way again.
Now, higher education's sitting on a surplus already anyways, aren't they?
Well, I don't know the details.
I'm fairly certain that higher education is already sitting on a surplus in the state of Oklahoma. So whenever someone talks to you about additional funding for higher education for universities in Oklahoma, they've got their nuts stacked away. So they're going to be fine. That's unfortunate for us that do want to starve the beast, because they've got something to live on for a while.
I hope the governor is listening, because we desperately need leadership at the level of the governor. I've heard talk that he wants to support education, and I don't know if that includes higher education or if he's just talking about common education.
And another thing, something that does not reside within the power of the governor. So we hope that the members of the legislature are watching, and they do watch, David. This constitutional amendment that would limit salaries in higher education to cap at the governor's salary.
Yeah, I think that's one way to do it, and I would do it with a constitutional amendment. And then if they don't like that, let them take it up in court and see what the courts decide. Okay, because a lot of those people have academic tenure, and I think under tenure, your salary can't be cut. Maybe I'm wrong. So let's throw out the challenge and see what happens.
I think so, because if we do nothing, we're going to get the same result.
That's right.
And that is not acceptable, because the advance of the left and these political activists, and like you said, this angry minority is accelerating.
And that's right. And there's always something for them to be angry about. And you know what? You're not going to get racism down to zero. When you have 2 students out of 26,000, you're already down to about the 0.00001%. Okay, this is just as absurd. Think about the demand. If I demanded that crime be reduced to zero, how ridiculous that would be. That's never occurred in any human culture, society, or civilization since the beginning of time.
And if somebody picks a pocket on Robinson Street, we got to fire the police chief.
Yes.
It's just
Yes,
insane.
it's the same thinking, you know.
Absolutely.
If it's not this, it's something else they'll be angry about. I've seen oblique references on Twitter that I should be fired because of, you know, things I wrote like 20 years ago. You know, and they're going to come after me this semester. I'm pretty sure of it. I can feel it. I can feel it in the water.
Yeah, well, and like I said, we're seeing an acceleration, the pace everywhere. The fanaticism is, and that's what I'm worried about. Is I'm worried that we have passed critical mass with these useful idiots, and that this horde of indoctrinated.
Well, it's sad. I mean, at some point, even in my teaching, I might happen to mention the Bill of Rights. And I don't think that most of the students in the classroom have ever heard of the Bill of Rights before, let alone knowing what's in the Constitution. Mm-hmm. Okay? When I was in junior high school in the late 1960s and late 1960s, I guess, we had like a civics class, you know, and we were taught the basic principles of government, 3 branches of government, and rights and responsibilities and civic duties, and I don't think they have that anymore, do they?
Well, no, they. I was actually one of the last classes in Choctaw, Nakoma Park, that got that civics class, and the biggest problem that I see is this sickness, this disease about the idea of government, what the proper role of government is.
Well, that's right.
Has worked its way all the way down from the state, from the national government, state government, all the way down to the localities. And it seems like it might be this academia engine that's driving all of that.
It's on one level, what you're looking at is the cry of an infant who wants what he wants without. It's the desire to get something for nothing. The desire to base all of your actions on your feelings. I was asked, when you watch this racist video where those 2 girls were doing this, how did that make you feel? And I said, I didn't even watch it. Why would I watch such a stupid thing? And secondly, it's irrelevant how I feel, because I don't base my actions, at least ideally, upon how I feel. If I did that, right, I'd have like 100 road rage incidents every day, right? I'd be killing everybody.
Well,
right? But
that goes towards that anti-intellectual abyss. I love that statement, because they have created so many of these different studies, so many of these different niches that have nothing to do with real jobs, real life, real history, real people, nothing, especially in the state of Oklahoma. But they've created such a mess, such an abyss, that whenever you're a student walking into this institution or this system, it's hard to find the actual, real, intellectually valuable material and avenues there.
Well, I think it's very sad, and people have got to start paying attention. You've got to make demands on your legislature for reform, and there should be no funding unless there's reform, and this can be done. We know how to do this, and in President Galloway and the legislators and the governor and all the regions, they need to stop deferring to the faculty, okay? And the faculty scream academic freedom, but they don't want to give anyone else academic freedom, okay? They don't want to give Professor McCall academic freedom, and we haven't talked about Professor McCall, but this is so typical. This is a guy, again, he's evidently a law professor, and I never met him. Okay, but for some reason, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is one of these very radical left-wing ideological groups, decides they're going to go after him. And so then the campus newspaper, which is just an abomination on campus, the OU Daily, it's staffed by all these left-wing radicals, and they don't report anything but what promotes left-wing ideology. Okay, it's like Pravda from the old Soviet Union.
Yeah, it's propaganda.
Okay? It's 100%. They go after him, and they do a hatchet job on him. And so the university investigates him, launches a secret investigation, because you know what this professor wrote? He wrote that he thinks women should wear skirts instead of pants. Now, I think that's silly, but you know what? People have all kinds of different ideas about clothing. Nobody would dare investigate a Muslim professor because he thinks that women should wear the scarf on their head, would they?
Right.
Okay.
Of course not.
Or the Amish, how do they dress? Or Orthodox Jews, right? Wear the black hats and everything. So, okay. And so they launch a secret they go around and interview, has he ever done the, you know what they find? Zero. Nothing. And so what's the result?
And the Oklahoman reported on that,
Yes.
didn't they?
What's the result? He's punished. He's punished by being pressured into resigning his administrative position. He gets to continue as a professor, but he is punished for literally, even after they find nothing.
Pressure.
They punish him.
Pressured into resigning. And that's what it is pressure.
And you know who brought this to the attention of the Oklahoman? I did.
Well,
And I'm glad I did, and they lined up on it.
Well, we appreciate you being conservative, being brave, being a classic liberal, really, honestly,
Yes.
and believing in the principles of free speech.
Well, I'm the last man standing.
Well,
And so
that's
when I go, and they're going to come after me sooner or later, because you know what? When 500 of them or 700 of them send out a letter,
when
or
they
something,
start putting pressure.
I can write the letter too, even though I'm only one person.
Well, that's what I was going to say, sir, is maybe our brave efforts here, you being brave enough to push back against this leftist coven that has formed at OU, maybe what we're doing here at OTU Media and Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite, maybe we can start putting some pressure back the other direction where the leadership has some alleviation to stand up and start making these, because that's what we're calling for here. Is we are calling for our state leadership to do something about this rat's nest at the University of Oklahoma.
That's right.
We are calling on the Governor Kevin Stitt, to take action. We are calling on the legislature to take action and break up this monopoly on academic studies and, quite frankly, taxpayer dollars that are being accumulated at that university.
Let's take the funds and put them into really educating people in mathematics, in nursing, in engineering, where we need skilled people, in computer science. Do we need more people in these areas? I think we do, and there's a great demand for it. Okay? We have to meet that and wipe out all of this politicization. Just wipe it out. It's got to be, and understand here, we're in a battle. We're in a war. We have to fight to win.
It is a war.
This is a political fight. Make no doubt about it. And I understand President Gallagher doesn't strike anybody as a political person, okay? But he's got to come up to speed on this, and he's got to do so pretty quickly.
And if you're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, man, I hope somebody does something, you do something. Do something. You are going to have to take action. The price of apathy is to be ruled by evil men.
It is astonishing to me how conservatives, when you approach them and you talk about higher education, typically what will happen is, oh yeah, that's the way they are, this is so bad, there's nothing we can do about it. My goodness, this is where you're sending your young people. This is the future. This is where the people with the best and brightest minds are going. And you're just sitting back and letting them be indoctrinated in all of this radical crap.
Who knows how many
correctness.
brilliant minds we've lost already.
That's right. You have to fight, and you can win the battle if you fight.
Well, and we appreciate you guys joining us today. Professor Deming, thank you so much,
Okay,
not just
thank
for
you
your
for
letter,
having
but
me.
for everything that you do. And we will have you back anytime that you want to come and talk to the people on our platform. Thank you guys for tuning in all the time and supporting what we're doing here at Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite. I'm going to quote another OTU media host, Pluribus OTAP. I think it's Theodore Roosevelt that said it. The only American is an the only man who's an American is an American and nothing else. So
That's right.
yes, all this hyphenated American stuff needs to go away. It's multiculturalism, cancer upon our state and upon our country. So thank you guys very much. You guys keep tuning in. We'll see you soon.